Mevrouw de volksvertegenwoordiger, meneer de kabinetchef, dames en heren, beste vrienden. Ik wil u van harte welkom heten op deze feestelijke dag. 10 jaar geleden, in juni 2006, vond in deze zaal een persconferentie plaats om de geboorte aan te kondigen van wat toen de vrijwillige dienst bij de Belgische ontwikkelingssamenwerking heette. U zult zich vast de nog verwoestende tsunami van 2004 in de Indische Oceaan herinneren, waar meer dan 230.000 mensen zijn omgekomen. In de hele wereld, ook in België, zijn toen talloze solidariteitsacties.
Many solidarity actions were undertaken, and it are those actions which created within the Belgian legislature as kind of civilian service so that Belgians could go and work in projects within the framework of the Belgian aid service.
The implementation of voluntary service was entrusted to BTC. Focus was right from the start put on the professional dimension of the program that aims at allowing young professionals to have a first professional experience on the field in order to make up with the aging population of Belgian developers. And that program actually led to a change of name. The voluntary service was then renamed Junior Program for Belgian Cooperation for Development.
Let's go back to 10 years ago. The 16th of November, 3 young people went on a plane to Niger: Sugan Hogewijs, Astrid de Lamine de Bex and Clarisse Tambaka. They were the first pioneers of the junior program. 3 ladies, and in 10 years this has been always the case. Up until today we have more female junior assistants than male ones. Now 10 years later, Suzanne, Astrid and Clarisse are still examples of our junior program. Suzanne, after the junior program, she worked for BTC in Brussels and then she became the country rep of 11-11-11 in Kinshasa. Now today she's working in Belgium and in Congo. Also for Astrid, the junior program was a step up to a career in the international cooperation. She is now our attaché at the embassy in Congo. Now also Clarisse works for the refugee organization of the UN.
Ladies and gentlemen, hundreds of young people have joined the 3 first ones, with 471 juniors. As a development Belgian agency, we are very happy and proud for allowing them to have such an experience. Each year has been a key year for each and every young professional, as well as for the junior program. In 2007, 2 junior assistants could share their experience and adventure with the Federal Parliament on the occasion of the birthday of the King.
Sometimes we had less good news. In 2009 we stopped our program in Congo after a political difference at the highest level. But still, juniors also have to be able to live with the unknown character of development aid. Now 2010 was a very important year for us because then the Belgian NGOs could appeal to our youngsters for their projects, and now the junior program is working together with 20 Belgian NGOs. Most of them are here in the room, and 77 juniors started to work for a Belgian NGO. In 2014 we organized a second study to find out whether the junior program met its goals, and the results are there. 60% of the ex-juniors are still working in the aid development. 80% of them is active for organizations in the north. The junior program gives us the next generation professionals, but more and more they work from the north to work together with partners in the south.
Nous avons été contraints pour la première fois.
For the first time we were forced, let's hope it's the last one, we were forced to take out 18 juniors from Burundi. So these are key lessons that we have learned that makes us stronger. So in the future will be able to keep on operating in the fragile states. In 2016, the first junior assistants are going to go to our 2 partner countries, Burkina Faso and Guinea. So to conclude, I would like to stress the fact that juniors are regenerating through the field work with these new projects that can feel that new fresh air. And the junior program and the whole of the development for cooperation always need to be updated, modernized. As the director of the Belgian Agency for Development, I wish the junior program a wonderful birthday, a happy birthday, and I hope that within 10 years I will see you again and realize that you are still as motivated as you are today. Thank you.
Dank u wel, meneer Michiels. Mijn naam is Annabel. Ik ga straks ook voor jullie het debat modereren met onze genodigde sprekers. Maar ik ben hier ook om de sprekers aan te kondigen. Dus laat ik alsjeblieft het woord geven aan de heer Peter Moors, die kabinetchef is en die onze minister Alexander De Croo vervangt voor de gelegenheid.
Dank u, mevrouw de volksvertegenwoordiger. Meneer de voorzitter, dames en heren, ik zou willen beginnen met vice-eerste minister Alexander De Croo te excuseren. Die was hier graag geweest, maar die zit op het eigenste ogenblik samen met leden van de Nederlandse regering. En dat die afspraak is pas afgelopen weekend gebeurd, dus vandaar dat hij hier vandaag niet kan zijn. Ik zou willen beginnen met een anekdote waar eigenlijk drie mensen centraal in staan. Charles Michel, Karl Michiels en een junior assistant. En ik vraag u om even terug te gaan. Ik denk dat het in 2008 was
I think 28 in Benin, but it could have been 2009 in Mali. I don't know exactly. It was during an official journey of Charles Michel, who was the Minister of Development Cooperation, and at the end of the meeting he asked to meet the junior assistant. So we quickly organized it, and Charles Michel started to talk, and then there was an exchange of views, and at the end of the meeting Charles Michel asked all the junior assistants, where would you like to be in 10 years' time? What is your dream? And all of them answered, and most of the answers were, if I can say, normal. There were people who wanted to work for UTDP, some for BTC, some for the World Bank. And then all of a sudden a young lady took the floor and she said, in 10 years' time? In 10 years' time, I want to be in the chair of Karl Michiels. And that's the answer I remembered, because she had a lot of ambition. She had a real sense of urgency. Now that lady didn't realize its ambition, because it is Karl Michiels who welcomed us, so he's still in his chair of president, but I think that this lady is realizing her dreams somehow. Now, they told me that I had to talk English, so let's go. I'll switch to English then, and I think that everyone will understand English.
Dear colleagues, it was Minister Armand De Decker who decided 10 years ago to create the junior program. And in doing so, he wanted to offer young Belgian and European development professionals the possibility of acquiring a first job experience in the field for a minimum of 1 or maximum 2 years. And 3 words in what I have just said are important. First, young development professionals. Indeed, very often, a minimum professional experience is required for those who apply for a job, also in international development. Through this program, junior assistants can start a career in development cooperation without the need of any prior field experience. By recruiting and sending young professionals to the field after a rigorous selection procedure, the junior program aims at contributing to the emergence of a new generation of experts in international development, and it also aims at strengthening capacities and promoting sustainable development in partner countries. Second word, field experience. As the same Charles Michel once said, the Belgian Development Cooperation is une coopération de proximité. We have boots on the ground through the Belgian Development Agency, BTC. That is one of our main assets. And it is fitting that the junior program underlines that. Assisted by a coach, the junior assistants work in the field, in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, for a project of BTC or of one of the 20 NGOs linked to the program. And third, it's a job. These junior assistants not only acquire skills and expertise, which will hopefully open doors towards a career in international development, but they also contribute professionally to the projects and the programs to which they are assigned. It is a job, it is a real job, and it is a paid job, which is important for young people freshly out of school. In 10 years, the program has enrolled more than 450 junior assistants, and that is a success. The current program, the second one, runs from 2013 to 2019, and the Belgian government is investing 17 million euros in this second program, which is an indication of the importance we attach to it. Ladies and gentlemen, when the junior program was launched, we were working in a different world. In 2006, the Paris Agenda on aid effectiveness had just been approved. 10 years later, nobody is talking about aid anymore. Back in 2006, we were concentrating on social impact through the Millennium Development Goals and their heavy focus on social sectors, essentially health and education. Nowadays, with the 2030 with the 2030 agenda on sustainable development, our agenda has significantly broadened. We are talking about new financing tools, impact bonds, blending, leveraging, domestic resource mobilization. New actors have emerged that can teach us a thing or two about effectiveness. Philanthropic foundations and trusts, the private sector. And even more importantly, the responsibility for development has been placed squarely where it belongs, with the countries in Africa, in Asia, and in Latin America. They are responsible for their development. They must apply good governments. They must raise fiscal income. They have to muster political will to drive change. What we are doing is not about giving. What we are doing is not about aiding. It is about investing. Investing in the future of people, primarily of women and girls. We must approach our interventions as investment projects. We must assess risk. We must identify reliable partners who will live up to their commitments. We must handle taxpayers' money as if we were investing our own capital. Ladies and gentlemen, our business has changed dramatically over the past 10 years. And now we have to change our business model. And that is why the Belgian government is reforming the Belgian Development Corporation. And the transformation of BTC is one of the central pieces in that reform. I sometimes meet colleagues who wonder whether there will still be a job for them in this new environment. And I always assure them that there will be, and I am deeply convinced of that. The international development paradigm has changed, but the challenges are still there. Extreme poverty, insecurity and instability, fragility, climate change, rapid urbanization, demographic explosion in several parts of the world, migration. There is no doubt in my mind that we will continue to need young people freshly out of school who want to dedicate their lives and their careers to development issues. And the Junior Assistant Program helps them to get started. And that is very important indeed. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking, Mr. Peter Moors. Thank you for being with us, and our greetings to the Minister. You have seen these Sustainable Development Goals projected on the screen. It will be, of course, the core content of our discussion today and our presentation. And that's why we've invited Mrs. Teresa Gonzalez Garcia as well, because she is a UN Young Leader for the Sustainable Development Goals. Please.
Happy birthday! Hello everyone. I would like to first start by thanking the Belgian Development Agency for inviting me. I flew from Washington, D.C., which is where I live right now, but I'm originally from Mexico. Born in Chihuahua, maybe you've heard that name, but raised in Mexico City. I'm very happy to be here to honor you all on your birthday. As you mentioned before, I'm a UN Young Leader, a United Nations Young Leader for the Sustainable Development Goals. That long name means just one thing, that I'm an advocate, a spokesperson for the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Maybe you've heard it named as the Global Goals or the 2030 Agenda. We are talking about the same thing, don't worry. I'm also the co-founder of two nonprofit organizations in Mexico. One is Fundación Coelet, where we work to prevent violence, crime, and addiction in vulnerable and marginalized communities. As you may have heard, maybe, we have a few of those problems in my country. The other organization is called Leader of Light Mexico. Leader of Light is a global movement, it's an open source, where we recycle soda bottles, plastic bottles from water, juice, or soda, and we transform that into solar lamps. For communities that don't have access to electricity, for communities where affording electricity is really hard. With that project, I've been working first in Spain, in the outskirts of Madrid, with gypsy communities. After that, I jumped all the way to India to incubate the project and leave it in local hands in the cities of Mumbai and Hyderabad. And then I went back home to Mexico to launch the same project. And we've been working throughout the past almost 4 years, empowering people with solar lamps, solar power, so they can actually study at home, cook inside home, work at home, perhaps start a small business at home, among other many other things. As you also probably heard, last year in September, the world leaders made a commitment and adopted a multidimensional task for the next 15 years, the Sustainable Development Goals. A common agenda to end poverty, fight inequalities, and tackle climate change. All of this in the next 15 years. Well, actually 14, because we are already 1 year into this agenda. The global goals, as we call them too, I usually use global goals, or the SDGs, are universal. They are for all people, everywhere, rich and poor alike. I don't like those terms, but just to keep it simple, for everyone. They consist on a new approach. They are no longer business as usual. We learned a lot from the Millennium Development Goals. We learned better how to measure in different countries, in different contexts. But also, we learned that we need new solutions. We cannot keep talking and enabling the same old schemes and old systems. Yes, the global goals are ambitious, very ambitious. There is no doubt about that. But this plan is attainable. We need to be conscious about them because the cost of inaction is greater than the cost of action. That's something that we really need to keep in mind. The global goals are also interconnected. They cut across social, economic, and environmental needs. For example, we cannot achieve access to education without gender equality, or we cannot end hunger without tackling climate change. For the goals to be reached, everyone needs to do their part. Governments, private sector, civil society, and people, just people like me and you, like you and me. That's why I want to share with you this video and reflect a little bit more on this.
I was refugee in Pakistan, I was refugee in Iran, I was refugee in Dubai, and now I'm a refugee in France.
Les gens, quand tu es handicapé, ils n'essaient même pas de voir ce que tu es capable de faire, mais ils te jugent à travers ton handicap.
Haberme venido no fue una buena idea.
यहाँ की लड़कियां कुछ नहीं कर सकती।
लाइट रहित, उजियार रहित, हमरो बाल बचाव उजियार रहित.
Agama me fumidam bem e só para mim bem, mas que ele não me corta.
Porque se todo mundo tivesse alimento em casa, ela podia raciocinar. Então, poderia ser pobre, mas teria inteligência na cabeça para poder sair dali.
Parce que na mukil mutu azwana mission na onzamba tindelai. Ngape na za mukil pona mission na ngai me nzambe ndayebi.
I've left my husband to be with a woman, and for me that's a huge step in my country as an African woman to do that. I do have a strong voice and I'm strong as a woman speaking for myself.
Nous devons dire au monde que nous existons, que vous êtes là. Et je suis sûr qu'aucune misère, aucune pauvreté extrême n'est pas une fatalité. On peut la combattre.
Afaka ihany fa mba tsy hitovy amin'le hoe toerana nisy atsony zany fa mba lasa ambonimbony kokoa zany izy dia tamiko moa ny reniny dia famihina teo zany any Termiana.
Anything that I say after this video could not count, but I prepared a few words more for you. You haven't been left behind. That's why you are sitting here today. And with that comes great responsibility. These are the lives, the video says, that the goals must change, but also yours. Through initiatives like the Junior program that we are celebrating today, you all touched these SDGs. Even without knowing them, they were called like that, or even when they didn't exist. You were already acting upon this. These are the issues, the names, the faces that many of you have been working on through these marvelous experiences that you are having abroad. It matters. It does matter. It's not only about all of you bringing developing country talents to other countries like mine, name it developing, low income, middle income, you name it. For you to have first-hand experiences, it is required for you to come back and bring back and act upon this. The world needs you more than ever. During your 2 years abroad with the Junior program, but especially after that. That's the key, after that. When you become a successful marketer at the private sector, a doctor, a social worker, a government minister that has influence in policy making, it is crucial that the world still counts on you. Even when it seems that your golden junior program years have no connection with what you are doing right now, they do. Responsible consumption, for example, goal number 12. When you go to the grocery store, you select a product. It takes no time for us to Google, what are we buying? Where is that coming from? If you are on the other side of the coin, sustainable production. Every day we can fight inequalities, starting by our daily commute or stand up for justice at the workplace, for example. Remember when you felt like a newbie? When you were scared or overwhelmed with your new assignment in Uganda or Peru or wherever you went as a junior assistant? You went abroad with the most protective ecosystem. Someone waved at you at the airport as you were leaving. Probably someone greeted you when you landed. You had a set program, a deadline. But imagine, and I'm sure you already know about this, people fleeing their countries. How do they feel when they arrive to yours? Without a network, without a plan. You were welcomed. Be welcoming in your everyday life. That's easy. It really is easy. We tend to complicate ourselves too much. In some regions, we are facing a refugee crisis, but in others, like mine, for example, we are facing the brutality of drug cartels. In many others, staggering numbers on discrimination due to race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, disabilities, education level, amongst others, many others. We are not different. Some countries may have more infrastructure, more stable economies, but in the end, we all need the same. We need food, we need a planet to live in, we need water, air, a house, a community to belong, and especially to achieve our dreams. I have been part of similar programs to the junior program. I was a fellow at Atlas Corps in the United States. It's somehow a reversed junior program. They bring to the US different nonprofit professionals from all around the world, and that was my case. I served for a year and a half at the United Nations Foundation as a communications officer. They selected me not because I needed field experience, as opposed to the junior program. I already had many, many years of experience on the field. And I brought that to a very homogeneous space, culturally sensitive thinking, and the experience was equally marvelous. I can assure you that. I'm still working in Washington, D.C., but now on a different side. For the United Nations Foundation, I was doing communication, especially reaching out to Hispanic communities, like where I come from. But now, my program ended. It is maximum a year and a half, not 2 years, unfortunately, like yours. I'm working for the Young America's Business Trust, which is part of the Organization of American States. Now, I'm working to enable and support young entrepreneurs from the region, from Latin America and the Caribbean. Through technology, training, and different skills that we are building, we are trying to position entrepreneurship as an alternative to poverty. In all my experiences in Washington, D.C., very far from Chihuahua or from Mexico or any of the communities that I've been working previously, I told myself, I cannot forget. I cannot forget the field. I cannot forget the ground, the names, the faces, and the realities that I've seen. That experience comes with me forever. And that's an invitation that I want to throw out there for every junior assistant that has graduated, that has finished their program. Don't forget. Stay committed. I never imagined I would be a Mexican young person living in the United States, witnessing this moment of history. You all know what I'm talking about. The world is facing a human-face backlash. From Brexit, the failure of the peace agreements in Colombia, the rejection of marriage equality in Mexico, that was just recently, and the win of hate and division in the United States. I am wearing 2 pins today. I don't know if everyone can see them. One is to honor the global goals. It has all the colors and a different color for each goal. And the other one is a safety pin. Perhaps someone thought my jacket was broken, but no, it's just a safety pin. Perhaps you've seen this in social media, but this only means you are safe with me. If you are facing discrimination, you are safe with me. If you don't have the same wage at work like your men peers, you are safe with me. We can talk about that. And we can talk about many other things. If you are part of the LGBTQI community, you are safe with me. I encourage you to wear a safety pin, to be a safety pin for everyone else. Even if you are being discriminated, if you are being isolated, you can still be a safe place for someone else. This is not a time to isolate or to isolate others. It's a time to come together. Challenges never stop. You all know that. We need to keep evolving. We need to look at the SDGs more than ever. Even with historic changes, the SDGs are going to be there, at least for the next 14 years for us. This is a reminder of the commitment we signed up to achieve worldwide. It needs from all of us, all hands, all minds, all hearts, from every sector, from every country. Today, the world is home to the largest generation of youth in history. 1.2 billion are aged between 15 and 24 years old. And this number is expected to grow. Between 2015 and 2030, around 1.9 billion young people are projected to turn 15 years old. And according to the World Bank, the global economy will need to create 600 million jobs over the next 10 years. That means 5 million jobs each month, simply to keep the pace with the youth unemployment rates. We got a challenge right there. We have a demographic bonus. 1.2 billion young people. We need to leverage on that. How? I propose with skills development, and opportunities. It is all right to protect youth, but please don't forget to give us wings to fly. Sustainable development is commonly defined as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own. This is the generation that will pass the torch on every issue. You were or are part of the junior program. Congratulations, you are a torch bearer. Did you ever want to run in the Olympics? Well, you have some kind of torch in your hands. Young people are a force for good in the world. We have the imagination, the courage, the creativity, the inventiveness to find lasting solutions to the world's greatest challenges. We also need to work across generations. Please don't forget that. Youth are not the Messiah. Youth have a great opportunity in their hands, but we need to work together across generations and sectors. Everything is about interconnections, remember? Everything here and there is connected. Millennials, we need to speak about millennials. Not everyone identifies as one, but within millennials, that I bet this country has many, there's a myriad of talents, a collage of intersectionalities that sometimes may be perceived as contradiction for older generations. In average, a millennial changes jobs every 3 years. We'll see how history responds to this, but so far, millennials are changing every 3 years of job. Job hopping is a phenomenon that we need to face, that we need to accept and leverage. For example, me. I'm a millennial, even if I don't want to. I'm a millennial. I was born in '86. That's the time frame between the 80s and 2000s. Myself, I'm a collage of many things. I studied communications. I then did a master's in cultural engineering. I was working with gypsies. I was working in the slums in India. I have 2 nonprofit organizations, but I also work for the Young America's Business Trust. But also, I'm a UN Young Leader. I have a pretty busy schedule. But that's how millennials are. We work in many different issues, and especially if we believe in them. In order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we must engage a generation of young people who know about the goals. These goals are so friendly. I don't know if you ever saw the Millennium Development Goals. I have nothing against them, but these icons, would you publish this in your social media? Yes, me too. They're friendly. They're clear. They're colorful, as we are. That's how young people speak to each other, in colors, in icons, brief, concise. We need to keep evolving. The junior program needs to keep changing. And I really admire that in your 10-year anniversary, you are hosting a debate to discuss whether or not you are doing the right thing, whether or not you should improve on a certain topic, on a certain part of the program. I really admire that. Just something to think of. Back then, 10 years ago, social media was not as strong as it is today. You were just talking about that. We are telling stories differently. We are learning differently. We are teaching differently. We are sharing differently. We didn't have smartphones, which I bet there are now key tools for your everyday assignments. Today, with technology, everyone has become entitled to have an answer, and we need to leverage on that. Our interdependence and shared humanity requires us to give all we can to make sure that ours is the first generation to end poverty, the most determined to tackle inequalities, and also, and very importantly, the last generation to be threatened by climate change. Finally, I want to strongly convey this message. Youth empowerment is both a human rights imperative and a smart investment in sustainable development and peace. A human rights imperative and also a smart investment. Let's keep that in mind. Isaac Newton said, "If I have seen further than others, it is because I have stood on the shoulders of giants." I hope we all represent a generation of giants, where the ones coming next can find the support to take us all beyond our own limits. I celebrate you all today as part of this giants chain. To me, my dear friends, the junior program represents that. A 10-year-old team of giants, daring to go further. You stand with humbleness in the shoulders of others, willing to see further. You have the courage to become the best version of yourselves and share with the generations to come. Please, 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 keep changing and never, never stop. Long live the junior program. Merci beaucoup.
Teresa Gonzalez Garcia, I will invite you straight away to go and sit at the debate table because you're one of our wonderful speakers. Thank you for being here with us. There's more space at that table. I want to welcome also the people who are watching us through live stream, because there's quite some people and there's reaction also through the hashtag. I want to mention it, GP10years, hashtag GP10years, if you want to give a reaction on the speeches or ask an extra question, please do so. So welcome to the juniors and the coaches abroad somewhere around in the world. I want to invite also Linda Polman, who is a Dutch investigative journalist and author. She is here. You can welcome her also with an applause, please. And the BTC board member, Asita Kanko, who is here with us also. Please join us. And then we have Bart Tierens, who will join the female debate. Bart, welcome also advocacy officer at UNICEF Belgium, but also former junior assistant. This is my book. Before we start a brief debate on, of course, the importance of this junior program and hopefully influence the future of the junior programs, I want to have a brief introduction. Teresa, we know so much about you now, so if you don't mind, I will hand the word to Linda, sitting next to you. Linda, you're a journalist. What are you writing about?
Okay. Right now, I'm working. I'm doing an investigation about the European refugee policy. What I usually do in my work is I follow the money. I want to know how Europe is spending its development aid money. More and a larger share of the development aid money is going into the refugee, into the migration policy. More money is being spent in ways to stop migrants coming to Europe. So that's an interesting development. I also think it is a very alarming development, but it's interesting. I'll be watching that for the next months or even years. And before this, I did a book about the international humanitarian aid industry. Again, a follow the money thing. I investigated which donors are sending their money to which places for which projects and why not in other places and other projects. So and that's how I discovered that aid, European aid or international aid, is really a political instrument. It's always spent on political agendas, military agendas. So that's what I do.
How did you come to the idea of following this? Is it because no colleague does it, or?
There's very, very few journalists who specialize in aid, so that makes it more important and also more interesting for me. I started it by total accident, actually, which is quite a few years ago. I ended up in Somalia for some reason. I had a friend who was a freelance photographer, and he called me one evening when I was in Amsterdam, and he said, "Linda, I'm quitting this freelance photography job, cannot make a living. I start working for an Australian catering company in Somalia." And I said, "Well, have fun and call me when you're back." And it was only later that I realized what he had actually said. He was going to work for a catering company in Somalia. And the only thing I knew about Somalia was there was a famine going on. So I decided to go to Somalia and find out what the hell he was doing there. I found him, and he was working for a catering company. And that company worked for the United Nations peacekeeping mission there. So from there, I started following peacekeeping, United Nations peacekeeping around Africa, and then I shifted my attention towards the international crisis caravan, all those white Land Rovers that you see moving into disaster areas. So this is where I started investigating international aid.
Are we supposed to be happy to have you here?
Yes, yes.
And why?
Why? Because I think it is also important to have an outsider talk about aid, and what I can do for you is sort of sketch the international context of aid. Aid is an industry, and when it is an industry, there's lots of different agendas involved. Political agendas, military agendas, and I believe it is important to understand those agendas. So I think I can have a sort of healthy share in this discussion. Yes.
Indeed. It was a question where I expected a yes as an answer. Be interesting to all the people here present and people listening to us to be reading your material, because actually maybe we are missing this link of having journalists reporting on the aid matters.
Well, yes, like I said, there's very few journalists who actually look at aid as a subject in itself. If you look at Africa, where a lot of aid is going, the journalist that will be covering aid there will be the correspondent in Nairobi, who have to cover everything in Africa. But you can also look at aid as an industrial complex, which means that you can look at aid everywhere in the world. Because what I find in my work, I go to Asia, I go to Africa. Now in Europe for the aid, for the refugee aid, there's always the same players. It's always the same agendas. It's always the same donors. So you can look at aid as an industrial complex, and you can study aid as an industrial complex with all the agendas.
Did you already write down a brief first reaction when you heard the opening speech about 10 years ago and the raising of this?
I especially listened to your speech, and it was really interesting. Thank you very much. And I sort of thought back, you know, because I'm a lot older, and I've seen this happen 10 years ago and 20 years ago. There have always been these international goals, and the outcome has always been slightly disappointing. I sit here and I wish you all well, and I hope you make every single one of those goals true. But I am skeptical. It's again, you know, these are very sympathetic goals, and they all should be achieved. But aid and a better world is a political thing. It's not an aid thing. All these goals can be achieved if we change our politics. And that's all that's needed. It doesn't take anything to make clean water and sanitation all over the world. It doesn't cost a lot of money. The only thing you need is political will. So this is what I'm already giving you now as a sort of message. Go into politics. Perhaps not into aid, but...
Or into aid politics?
Or, well, yes. Into aid politics,
no?
Yes.
I'm only guessing. You will tell me the truth.
Well, I mean, as soon as you're part of the aid industry, that means that you also have to follow the agendas. You have to work with your donors. The donors set your agenda. So in Dutch we have this saying, the persons whose bread you eat, with that tongue you will speak.
A change from within, don't you see?
Well, it's
a
going
possibility?
to be so difficult because you have to go with the industrial flow. You have to please your donors. That is basically what is happening. You have to please your donors, and otherwise somebody else will take your job, or somebody else will get the money. So that makes it really hard to change from within. But the industry, the aid industry, does need good people. So yes, in that way, I would encourage people to go into aid. You need good people. You need critical people to do the best that they can within the industrial complex. Yes.
Okay. Next to you is Bart Tierens. You're a junior assistant or a former junior assistant. Tell me more about yourself.
Well, I was a junior assistant from 2011 till 2013. I was based in Agadir, a southern city in Morocco. And the program in which I worked aimed at bringing drinkable water to approximately 75,000 people in the region, the rural region around the city. And well, to me it was a great experience. Maybe to react already a little bit to what Linda said, I came just from a university. I was a student of political sciences, and I had a very critical image of development cooperation. I was really seeing it, perceiving it in terms of interests, a bit as Linda does. And when I was on the field, and I'm sure, I think it's for every junior assistant, the experience is very different. But what I saw on the field was actually quite good. The program in which I worked followed the priorities of the Moroccan government. There was a very strong national ownership. If there were constructions that needed to be done, then it was according to Moroccan procedures. So there was a strong national ownership, and it was a sustainable project. It was managed very well by Moroccan authorities, and you knew that if you would come back in 10 years, then the results of the project would still be in place. And of course, Morocco is maybe an easy country in terms of development cooperation, because it's already quite developed. There are a lot of educated people. There is a market of a lot of things you want to have. But still, to me, it was a very good experience in terms of development cooperation.
Out of curiosity, for your personal reason, why did you start this junior program?
Well, so I was a student of political sciences, and I was already very interested in development cooperation and in third world issues.
Why? How come?
How come? Oh, that's a good question. Well, I've always been attracted by the rest of the world and like global issues. I don't really know where it comes from, but it has always been somewhere inside me. And so after my studies, it was like a logical choice to go abroad for a while, and then I find out of this junior program.
Now you work at UNICEF?
Yes.
What do you do?
So now I work at UNICEF, the Belgian office of UNICEF, and I'm working in advocacy, advocacy on child rights in foreign policy and development cooperation. So actually I try to increase attention for child rights in the Belgian policies of the Belgian foreign policy and development cooperation policies.
Okay, meaning that you, let's say, agree that you connect to what Linda said about wanting to affect changes from the political point of view?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are a lot of levels to. If you want to achieve the SDGs, there are a lot of levels to work on. Policy is definitely one level, but you would also have to support other countries, countries with less means, to achieve these goals. You would also have to work with enterprises. So it's a combination of different levels on which you have to work. It's not one level or another level.
During the debate, we'll have the occasion to listen to different junior assistants via video. Next to you sitting is Asita Kanko, who is working here at BTC. Are you a former junior assistant as well.
I was actually, hi, thank you very much. I was actually hoping I was still a millennial. I don't know until what age we can still call ourselves so, but maybe I'm not very, very old. I was born in 1980, so I can use Snapchat though, so that is...
that makes you already very happy today.
Yes.
Can you tell me something about yourself? Have you been a junior assistant?
No, I did not have the opportunity to be a junior assistant. It started, I was born in Burkina Faso. I came here in 2004 and I had to find my way, and yeah. So I wasn't part of it, but I'm happy today to be part of the board because I'm very much interested in how international relations can be a field that is not only left to a group of people abroad with their problems or whatever. It's also an issue for all of us, and an opportunity to build a better world together. So I'm very happy to be here today as well.
You're here as a partner of BDC. Do the people, the family in Burkina Faso, did they expect you to become this person?
I think they actually thought, that I don't think they doubted a lot. I never made it a secret. When I was a child, I was called Margaret at home. So I didn't even know
You were called?
Margaret. I didn't know who Margaret Thatcher was, but that was the name my parents found for me because I was very ambitious, and my first dream was to say that I wanted to become Thomas Sankara, and Thomas Sankara was a president in Burkina Faso who wanted to empower people. He said something that sounds like what you just said about the tongue you can use to speak. What he said was that the hand that feeds you will also command you, so you need to become independent. And he was strongly against the increasing debt. And I was growing up there seeing also the devaluation of this en français le CFA. So you go to buy bread, and the following day, when you are 10 years old and the price of bread is doubled, and it's still the same bread, so you feel the economics in your real life. And in the same period, a little story I actually remember is that at school we received people from France telling us that they were there to help us, actually, because we were poor. And I must admit, I didn't know that we were poor. So I was very upset and disappointed. I went home crying and telling my dad that I had very bad news because I just found out we were poor. And so I never liked the word aid. He was trying to make me understand that it was okay to be poor, that was really not a problem, and that we would still be happy. So saying how this is about self-esteem, I prefer to speak of empowering communities, of like Peter Morse just said this afternoon also, it's about investing in people and in businesses, and Teresa also mentions the entrepreneurship as an alternative. It's really about doing something to open up to use the energy that is already in people without assisting them and making them feel as if they were less, because then they will never fly. This is what I've personally experienced, and now as someone who is active in businesses, in politics and in society, I'm keen to support the new way of committing to the SDGs and speaking more of empowering people.
So you're talking about a new attitude that
Yes.
has to be taken for granted in development.
Yes, it's a new attitude, not only new species, because the problem is that mostly you will have a lot of speeches about development, but it's also, we need new deeds, new acts, new, not only promises, but also results, and a real, not only the beauty, I like the colors of the SDGs images, and it's something that is also currently circulating in businesses. We had the Belgian SDGs signed. We have, in the company I worked for, we also have committed to do gender equality, environment and education. So it's something that is now being included in the core business of people, of what they're actually doing every day. And, you know, and involving the youth here is very important because it's also creating a future for the project.
I wanted to ask, does the junior program has a future?
I hope it does, and I don't want to start an argument here, but I will be certainly one of the persons who will really fight for it, so that it will have a future, because it's quite boring to be young and full of energy and not have the tool and the opportunity to contribute. Where I come from in Burkina Faso, we had to go to the military, or it was not compulsory, but it was an option, or we had to go to an hospital for 1 year. We call that CERNAPO, Service National Populaire, under Sankara, or we could go teaching kids during 1 year. You could do something for society. Actually, I support the idea of giving a mission to younger people before university or after university, so that they can get involved and do something. This is very much better than going to Syria or anywhere else. And it might cost money to support this kind of programs, but I think it costs more money to not use the potential of these young people who really, they are new kind of young people. They have so much possibility to use their energy today thanks to the new digital era than what we could do before. So I really support it.
We have a few people who are now right in the middle of their mission with the junior program, and we thought it would be a good idea to watch them through video and to watch their brief experience. This is a first topic.
Ben en fait, j'ai pu constater sur le terrain les vraies difficultés d'accès à l'eau potable et à l'assainissement pour une grosse partie de la population des zones appuyées par les projets où j'ai pu travailler. Et en fait, le plus gros problème, c'est la distance à parcourir pour accéder à un point d'eau et aussi de garantir la qualité de cette eau. Parce que c'est pas parce que la source est de bonne qualité que l'eau qui sera bue le sera encore. Donc j'ai pu travailler sur des campagnes de sensibilisation participative pour conscientiser les populations bénéficiaires, notamment sur les questions d'hygiène tout au long de la chaîne de l'eau. Et c'est pas toujours évident de travailler sur ce sujet, vu les traditions qui sont ancrées et les barrières culturelles. Et j'ai aussi appris que l'eau n'est pas gratuite. Si on veut qu'elle soit durable, il faut payer son service.
J'ai, comme j'ai pu le dire, eu la chance d'avoir tant un travail en ville, pour les contacts de commercialisation, pour la compréhension des marchés et des choix des consommateurs. Mais j'ai eu aussi l'expérience terrain qui m'a permis de beaucoup mieux appréhender les difficultés à la base au niveau de la production, pour avoir des semences de qualité, pour voir quels liens les organisations paysannes et leurs membres pouvaient construire avec la recherche, pouvaient construire avec les autorités locales aussi, pour avoir accès à des terres plus facilement. Et cette compréhension que j'ai pu avoir sur le terrain, pour moi, est essentielle lorsqu'on travaille dans le secteur de l'alimentation, en tout cas pour le travail dans les pays du Sud. Mais je le trouve encore très utile dans le travail que je fais maintenant et qui me permet de travailler aussi avec des agriculteurs en Belgique.
But I believe that international cooperation and learning from other country examples can really assist with capacity building for any country, really.
Those youngsters know about those goals, the global goals, but they have to develop them in another content, in another situation. Bart, I think you know the feeling of arriving in another country, the head full of intentions, and the reality was different. The reality was very much something you had to learn. Does it take a long time to learn about your new environment and to translate the ideas you have to the new environment?
It takes quite a while, I would say. Yeah, I think it takes at least 3 months to get really used to this, the new place where you are. And very often you have certain ideas, and then you arrive, but then it turns out that the reality is very different. And sometimes you have like several steps of understanding. At a certain point, you think, now I finally understand how like culturally or on another level how something works. But then after a few months later, it turns out that it's still different.
Do you remember those moments where you said, "Oh yeah, I've understood," and then the next day you think, "Oh, I don't know anything"?
Yes, it happens. Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
To give an example, it's difficult just to have an example out of the blue.
Maybe start with when you arrived. You arrive with a luggage of information, you get instructions, theory, and then you arrive. What's the big shock between the theory and the arrival?
Well, first shock is well, I had the impression that what I was going to do on the field, it was already quite clear that there was a clear project. It turned out that it was quite different, and my idea at the beginning was also, okay, there is a clear task to do, and I will collaborate with people of the Moroccan administration, and they will also be convinced that it's what should be done. But then it turns out there are so many priorities, and the program is decided on a higher level. But then maybe the person you have in front of you, for this person, there is so much to do. So the task you have is maybe not a direct priority. So it's much more complicated to get started than okay, this is the task and let's get started. You have to get to know your colleagues with whom you're going to work. You have to get to know the other partners with whom you have to work. So it starts with a social getting to know each other is a first step, and then you can really start working. Yeah.
Let's say the junior program is for 2 years, planned for 2 years. Let's say you're 1 year further in the experience. How different is it then for you after a year?
After a year, I finally understood most of the things, and I had the impression that I was really beneficial to the program in which I worked. The first months, you have to learn a lot of things on the technical level, on the cultural level. You have to find a place to live yourself. So there is a lot of things to learn and to do and to prepare. So it's only after a while that you really get on full speed and you start to be beneficial for the project and make results.
We're talking about working abroad being really a way to apprehend different realities. So let's take it out of the context and let's think just about traveling and meeting other people. How important is that to a human being?
I think we're speaking about basic human connection. I remember I was living in Spain for about a year and a half. I mentioned before I was working within gypsy settlements, but also I was part of the non-gypsy part of the Spanish society. But then the India adventure came. And I actually felt more at home in India than in Spain. Even though I shared the language, some food dishes, we were a Spanish colony for such a long time in Mexico. But I felt more at home in India. Without speaking the language, without the same food, my heart just felt part of that community. It was easier to connect in a human level, even speaking with signs. That's something that happened to me, but also a quick story. When I first went to Spain, my idea was to replicate a project for violence, crime, and addiction prevention. And turns out that where they were facing this was in the gypsy settlements. So I went there. You have a lot of knowledge about them. I didn't, because in Latin America, we've barely seen a gypsy person in our lives. So I didn't have that context. And when I first went, I faced some difficulties, some joys, many things at the time. And at first, when I started speaking about these topics, like, hey, how would you see violence in your community? And they were like, no. Before starting to talk about those things, you dance with us, and then we talk. And I was like, okay, fortunately, I love dancing. I was a dancer for about 10 years. So
What a professional dancer.
I wanted to be a professional dancer, but I didn't get to that point. But I did study dance. Of course, they didn't like the dance that I knew. But I spent like probably 3 or 4 months of my life dancing with these people every single afternoon. And then we spoke about violence, about leader of light, about putting light in their houses, but the way they want it. And first, dancing.
The slow food you're proposing to us is not very compatible with the political changes needed, Linda, I guess. Can you reflect on that? She's saying you have to dance for 3 or 4 months before you can talk.
Oh yes, I would love to do that, but I don't have
That
the
would be
patience.
wonderful,
Yes. I started traveling when I was 16, and that was because my father used to be a pilot for the KLM Airlines. So that meant that I could get really cheap tickets.
Lucky you.
Oh, I was so lucky. So I had this job in the supermarket on Saturdays, and the only thing I needed to do was gather 25 guilders at the time, and then I could buy a return ticket to Jakarta, you know. And that's what I did. I traveled and I traveled and I traveled, and I'm still doing that. And it's one of the most useful things that you can do as a person, I think, because of the things that you are saying, all the adventures that you'll have, all the experience that you have, the dancing that you will do. You will learn a lot about other cultures and other people, but also you will learn about your own country, because every time you come home, you have to compare. And then usually I praise myself lucky to live here. I more and more realize that no matter how much they dance in the rest of the world, I realize that here in Europe we live on this island of prosperity. I mean, we are only a very small place, Europe, but we have so much money, we have all the possibilities, all the opportunities, it's all here, and it's all ours, yes. So I believe that we are very privileged people, yes.
Let's go to a next topic.
Alors, je travaille toujours sur les mêmes problématiques. Je travaille maintenant au Myanmar, en Birmanie, avec le département des pêches, avec une autre organisation, une ONG internationale qui s'appelle World Fish. Et j'applique dans mon boulot de tous les jours les leçons que j'ai apprises avec le programme junior.
Nu, minder specifiek gelinkt aan gezondheid, maar toch heel belangrijk is dat ik als junior geleerd heb om hoe mij te positioneren, hoe aan de slag te gaan binnen een nieuw land waar je eigenlijk als partner, als buitenlander terechtkomt. En dus met de lokale bevolking, met de lokale partners, met de lokale overheden werkt. Dus dat is voor mij heel belangrijk geweest en nu nog dagelijks maak ik gebruik van de zaken die ik geleerd heb in Rwanda.
I use what I've learned as a junior assistant every day in my work. Working at headquarters is a very interesting position, but the knowledge I've acquired by working in the terrain, by working in the field, has been very valuable. I know how things work, I know how a daily relationship with a ministry works. I know how it is to work with headquarters that are not based in the same country where you're operating. So I do know how to establish a relation, and I do know how to talk with interventions. So what I've learned, I'm really using every day.
Learning how to collaborate, we've been talking about it, discovering your environment and also developing yourself. We're going to talk about it as well, but maybe this is the right moment to read a few reactions that came to us via Facebook. Nima Liar, and they all treat the same kind of hesitating question, you'll soon understand. Nima says, I think it's great having the juniors here in Uganda as part of a knowledge and skills and cultural exchange, but could it be useful to also send an Ugandan to Belgium for the same purpose? I'm going to read the next reactions because they go along. Hannah, Uganda. It's a great idea and it facilitates knowledge as well as experience exchange. However, in the heart of capacity building, juniors from host countries should also be sent to Brussels. And Thea says a bit the same. Junior assistant, she is in Uganda. I think it would be good if BTC invests more in hiring local junior counterparts for the expat juniors. It could be an excellent stepping stone for talented young nationals who find it currently very difficult to enter the development sector. Both the expat junior and national junior could learn a lot from each other. I read an attitude change, maybe from the millennials, from the younger people. They see it differently. There is experience with you, Asita, and I'm mentioning it because of your testimony. Linda, I want to talk about this. It should be give and take. It should be back and forth. Should it be, Linda, I'm asking you, should it be BTC? Are they obliged to do this step towards inviting also junior assistants to Belgium?
Well, it's one of the very stubborn things that are wrong in aid, and that is that we in the West, we find it very hard to give responsibility to the others. If you look at the total amount of aid funding worldwide, only a tiny little bit goes actually to local NGOs, to local people. And that has many reasons. It has to do with mistrust, you know. We believe that as soon as you are in Africa, your money will be stolen by all these corrupt politicians, etc. And it also has to do with the fact that we also believe that it is our money and that we are to decide how to spend it.
It's in an economic logic of the money invested should come back to us?
Well, I mean, we believe that it is ours. And we decide on what agenda it is going to be spent.
You're saying it's not?
Well, no, I mean, we take it upon us to aid and develop other countries, so please let them do it themselves. You are there to assist them, you are not there to tell them how to do it. But if you look at, like I said, if you look at the international spending of the money, then only a tiny, tiny little bit goes to local organizations. The last time I saw this in practice was I went to Haiti after the earthquake. The fundraising for Haiti was an international huge success. I believe more than $7 billion was pledged to Haiti or something.
Far too much, actually, no?
Well, only a tiny little bit was actually paid out, which is also what you see a lot. Money is being pledged, but it's not actually being paid out. But it was a lot of money, yes. But less than 1% actually went to local NGOs. And Haiti survives on local NGOs, you know. If you look at the Catholic Church, for example, in Haiti, you can have an opinion about the Catholic Church, you can have an opinion about Christian aid in general. But in Haiti, the Catholic Church is very, very strong, and they have their tentacles everywhere, on every level of society. So they should have given a lot of money to the Catholic Church. They were there, they know the country, they know how to spend it. But in all, less than 0.5% of the aid money actually went to local organizations. And the Haitian government got next to nothing. And then we sit there complaining about how corrupt the government is, but we don't give them a chance to develop themselves because we keep the money for ourselves. And that's a very stubborn thing in international aid, that the money tends to stay with us. We don't give it to governments, we don't give it to local NGOs, but we also, lots of it we spend in our own countries, on our own NGOs, on our own goods.
You know, for the story of Haiti, you know where the money has been spent then, because it has been spent, I guess.
Well, a lot of it was spent on the organizations themselves. The fact that organizations had to be there, they had to keep themselves, they came in large numbers. Before the earthquake, Haiti was quite well endowed with aid organizations. But after the earthquake, I believe there were 13,000 organizations that streamed into the country. They all had to be kept there. They were all hiring things. They were hiring houses and cars, and they were starting up projects, and they had to import computers, etc. So lots of the money was spent on themselves. And quite a lot of money was never spent. It sits in the bank accounts of organizations who are looking for ways to spend it. They are looking for opportunities to spend it. So I found it very, very disappointing, because what I do remember after the earthquake, and maybe you remember this too, there was this huge surge of sympathy after that earthquake. People really felt sorry for the country. People really wanted to help the country.
Help building.
Yes, governments were there pledging money, and we took money out of our pockets to help rebuild that country. So there was this huge amount of positive energy. And after a year and a half, everybody sort of realized, oh God, it's happening again. You know, the country is not going to be saved. People are still suffering in tents or under pieces of cardboard. And then you waste this positive energy that was there, because next time there will be another earthquake, or like now, you know, we just had this hurricane again in Haiti. And you see that people are tired, because last time it didn't help, so why would we help again?
Give us some hope, please.
For Haiti?
Yeah, don't depress us. Who is there, or what is there to do to... Who is there to read your book?
I will tell you.
Who has to read your book and deblock this story?
Well, Haiti is very much an American project. It's American organizations, it's the American government. And then you have a little bit of French money, a little bit of Dutch money, a little bit of Belgian money, but it's an American thing there. And the American aid organization USAID, which is the government of America, they have been spending the billions of dollars in Haiti over the past 40 years. So you should be influencing American politics. America has the money, America has the means, and America has the knowledge to do it. So it would be good to influence American politics. And I must say that I thought journalists were being very good in Haiti, because there was a lot of American press there to sort of watch what the American Red Cross was doing there, for example. Okay. I think they gathered a couple of $1 billion or something, and they built 6 houses, you know. I mean, it's total madness, yes. So, but the American press was pretty good. And that helped organizations to at least, it forced them to explain themselves.
Yes. I'm making a joke about depressing us, of course, Linda, you realize. It has to reinforce our will and our engagement, even as a junior assistant, to really take it seriously and not just take the money and run. But we were stuck with this idea of the exchange. Asita, I guess you feel like saying something about BTC's responsibility of maybe bringing also colleagues in the idea of the equality between a junior assistant coming from Belgium and a junior assistant coming from a poorer country?
I was first thinking that I don't believe we are going to have much influence on Donald Trump, especially regarding international cooperation and savings anyone. Actually,
don't give up.
I'm just kind of being skeptical.
We have a problem with your microphone.
Otherwise, I can just speak louder. Is it better? Yes.
Speak very loud, please.
From what I've heard here, the case of Haiti is, of course, a very specific case linked to a problem that was punctual, that happened. And, you know, what BTC is doing and international cooperation is doing is more kind of organized, structured, and you can plan something, you can have a long-term appointment. It's quite different. Indeed, I just try to avoid the word aid. I would say that the supporting and sharing experience is not only it doesn't only have something to do with money, because when, like what happened also with the tsunami or with Haiti or whatever, people always feel good to give money. When they give money, then they can sleep at night, because it's easy to give money. But after that, there is so much more to do. And when I imagine a junior program fellow on the field somewhere in Africa, it's not only the financial aspect, but he is also there, he or she is also there, and there is an experience shared, and that is very important. Here, it's also important when you go, of course, when you're going to use your budget, it's very difficult to say that you are not going to do anything for people here. We are also responsible for the people here.
Of course.
And it's about working together. So I think it's the young people who go abroad also get in touch with young people there anyway, and this is going to create something that's going to happen between them. Now, regarding the operational aspect of bringing over some junior leaders also from other countries, I have, as a person, I'm not against that idea, of course, but I cannot speak more in details about that as long as it has not been discussed in the board. But
I don't expect you to take the word for BTC, of course. It's just the idea, because the students feel like doing something back. It's more the idea or the philosophy of people being abroad, junior assistants being abroad, and I can read through their reactions. We should do something more.
They're already really doing great, and what they can do there together. I was discussing with a group from Sint-Truiden a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me they wanted to support gender equality in Burkina Faso, and they know my work. I wrote 2 books about gender equality, and they were asking my input as someone who is also involved with BTC or with development in general. And one of them told me they're just going to build a set of toilets, because toilets are really missing, and without toilets, girls cannot go to school when they start having their menstruation. This is something keeping them out of schools. Or they could just build a place where people can go and get clean water. But you cannot just go somewhere and build something, because after that, I have seen a lot of clean water possibilities that have been built by French people in Burkina Faso when I was growing up. And 1 year later, that thing wasn't working anymore, and nobody was taking care of it. So the idea at the end was to empower 10 young girls from the schools of Ouagadougou so that they would become junior leaders in their own environment there, to coach other students or other peoples in the city. This is something maybe that could inspire people who would like to volunteer for that. I think it's really important. When I was, just speaking of my personal experience, when I was growing up in Burkina Faso, I don't know, this is my own feeling, I don't know what I would have preferred to have the opportunity to act instead of just only traveling and going back, because when you travel, what are you going to do? It has also to be prepared correctly so that it can have an impact. Of course, we were speaking about traveling, going around and seeing.
And the personal opportunity.
It's very, very important.
But there's more than that.
It's very much more than that on what you do after that, because I saw some people who just went to Germany and come back, and life continues like it was before. They did not change. They did not have the opportunity to come back with something that could change. So it's how we do it, not only whether we do it or not, but how we do it that has to be efficient. I had the opportunity this year to be in 2 months' time in Japan, in Bolivia, and in Togo, countries I had never been before. It's exactly the same need for you everywhere. It's the same need. It can only be more acute because you are hungry or you are scared, but basically it's the same need to spread your wings and just discover the world. So I can understand that call. But anything we do, we have to do it in dignity, because there is no development without that dignity aspect. And we have to not forget the political part of also making development policies and international cooperation sexy when we speak to public opinion. Why would they support the politician who want to be re-elected and who would like to have more money for that? So it has also to be taken into consideration that we have to communicate positively around all these things to have people support the projects.
Make yourself clear. with that last?
You know, when I hear some people,
Very close to the microphone.
Even
people
before,
have trouble
I'm sorry, I have
listening
issues
to
with the
you.
microphone.
Otherwise, you speak for nobody.
So everything I said, you didn't hear what I said?
Yes, what?
You did? Okay. Oof.
They were doing a big effort.
I was quite worrying.
Make it easy for them, please.
I will try to make it easy for you. But now I forgot your question. Can you just...
I wanted to...
I was speaking about budget and about, okay, you know, for years I've been, and since that I've been involved in politics, and since I've been publishing more and more, I'm hearing a lot of comments about people since the migration crisis, saying that what is happening elsewhere is really not our business. But you cannot just assume that Belgium is an island and that we can choose not to care about anything that is going on abroad because it's far from us. It's not really far from us because the economies are interconnected, the political scenarios are interconnected, and we are human beings also. It's not only about what we feel, it's also about a logical aspect of things. And so there are many people who really think that this has nothing to do with us and that we should not be spending money to go abroad and do something called cooperation or whatever. And this is wrong. It's sometimes these people don't have much information about what is being done. What I like to do is to go in discussion and say, why do you think that? And what do you think that people who are actually involved in cooperation are doing exactly? And mostly I met people who didn't know anything about what was being done and who had an opinion about it. All these people are constituencies. All these people can express their vote or their opinion. And at the end of the day, a politician wants to be re-elected. That was what I was saying, that it's important to be good at what we're doing, and we're really good at it, and also make everyone know that it has an impact. And when you see the faces of younger girls, I'm very much attached to gender equality and to saving girls. It's so important what you said about girls and climate. When you see them being empowered, being strong, and having an impact in the environment, this is something that we can show and that we can speak of. And I'm always very happy to make publicity about what BTC is doing and supporting that way. That was a point I wanted to make about making it popular next to...
Very well. People. Let's go to the next topic about personal development.
Yeah, it really gave me the opportunity to do interesting work. And with the support of the BTC and my coach, I really had the technical advice and support network that I needed to do my job properly and to take initiatives and to make it a good experience.
Je conseille évidemment à tout le monde le programme junior. J'espère qu'il continuera et pourra permettre à d'autres jeunes comme moi d'avoir cette chance de connaître cette expérience qui permet de se développer d'une manière évidemment personnelle et professionnelle, notamment en donnant directement des responsabilités dans ces branches de compétences qu'on ne peut pas spécialement avoir de manière très facile aujourd'hui dans nos pays. Donc je le conseille vivement. Et je souhaite une longue vie au programme junior.
But the personal development was mentioned in the opening introduction. A lot of young assistants, junior assistants, come back after a few years but stay in the same area. It's the same for you?
Well, it's also development cooperation where we're working now, but it's not exactly the same subject.
Okay. In the opening introduction was mentioned that 80% of the people have a profession but come back to Belgium. How about you? Was it obvious to come back after 2 years?
Well, it was quite obvious, but it's also because it's very difficult to continue to work on the field, because aid agencies or NGOs, if they have job openings on the field, generally they want someone with 10 years experience. So if you have just 2 years of junior program experience, then it's too short to find a job on the field. You have, I think there are a few examples of juniors who find a job on the field, but it's very hard. So it's a logical step to go back to the north, to say. But then I think it's possible after like a longer experience in the north again, that it's possible to go back to the field again.
Okay, this personal experience and this professional experience is obvious. Everybody's talking in the same direction. I have here via Facebook a reflection that says, has there been an assessment on what the main advantages of the contribution of the juniors are for the projects? I don't know if there has, but maybe you could answer to that question, Bart. Do you think the advantages, do you have an idea of the advantages of your presence over there?
Well, I think there are a few conditions for such a program to have, to be beneficial for the project. And I think these conditions, they're met in the junior program. I think its first condition is that you have to stay long enough. Like very often people do a 3-month internship, but it's too short to really do something, to be beneficial for the project in which you work. You need to have a responsibility, clearly defined tasks, and in the junior program, it's also said in the introduction, there is an expectation of results. A junior assistant should have results after some time. And I think it's a third condition that flows out of the first 2 conditions is that you get a salary, because if you want someone to stay long enough and have responsibility, then you should give a salary. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fair. Otherwise, it wouldn't contribute to equitable development. I think these conditions are met by the program, and it is beneficial for the projects in which junior assistants work.
Asita, the beneficial part of those junior programs for the local projects?
I think it's very important to have this. It's an adventure. It's also sharing experience and sharing perspective. It's very important, and it's also not only for the local project but also back home. When you see job proposal, you very often have the request of knowing business in Africa or understanding Africa or having had some experience abroad. So when they come back, already they have a network. They're part of, Teresa spoke also about an ecosystem. It's very important, but the local people, the local younger people they have met there also have a contact in that way. And you know, it's connecting over the globe, and this is very important. When you go to a company, you have an added value. I myself work in a company that is active abroad. It's very important to know what is going on, what the cultural differences are, and for example, when you doing business with someone who is in Benin, who is in a remote place where there is not much internet, and as a businessman or woman here, you can imagine that you cannot just request that PDF and have it today, that you might maybe want to call. So you will develop new ways of communicating efficiently instead of assuming that the person is in Brussels or in Amsterdam and that is a different situations. It's just taking the situational aspects into account and thinking broadly, thinking differently about. So it's a win-win situation, actually.
You're saying that it would help to work with, for instance, an African country and not exclude it because it's not going fast enough.
I am not sure I understand.
You're saying that it would help you understand the other side of the world and
yes.
adapt your way of working.
Yes, of course, because otherwise you just know one piece of the puzzle, and you have to achieve things with the rest of the world. So it's very important to be able to understand what they're saying when they say something. You know, I have been in meetings where some people just understood something else. And when you know the cultural difference, you know that yes is not a yes. It just means I want to think about it, or I'm too shy to say something else. But there are so many subtle things one could take into account, and from a business point of view, quite suicidal to think that you can just go somewhere without any experience and without people having that experience, for example, like people from the junior program or whatever, to just go there and start from nothing, out of the blue, doing business. You need to have that. Otherwise, they pay very expensive consultants to give advice a piece of advice on how to do it. So it's added value for people there who also can understand how it goes with some people here, and also back home. It's really two ways thinking, and also regarding the relation with women. When you go to Côte d'Ivoire, imagine you have a business meeting during the Ramadan with women. How do you deal with them? I was one day with a colleague who really just gave a hand to the woman, and she was very shocked that she was the CEO of the company. I didn't think we would have that contract, but it's very sensitive. There are all kinds of things that are involved in this international way of communicating.
International people, Teresa, learn to observe and to ask the question before they come with their idea. Is that the truth?
There's a term that I like a lot: glocal.
Glocal.
Think global, act local. I think when we go abroad, we need to be informed, and especially. I'm coming from a country that could be considered the South, Mexico. Although it is actually geographically North America, but culturally belongs to the South. And if you speak about development and everything. The South, for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to use those terms, although I don't like them. The South is not expecting for saviors, is expecting collaboration. Where the colony times are in the past. Well, at least for some of us. They're in the past. We are not expecting, and I'm speaking generally, we're not expecting imposition, we're expecting collaboration. Before it was mentioned what would be the purpose of sending a Ugandan young person to Belgium to collaborate. I think that is key. We need exchange in this world. If we are acting global, local, and we are pretending to have an impact in both arenas, we need an exchange. Let's also remember that yes, there is a personal experience, there is a country experience, because junior assistants are going to represent a country sending them to serve. It's a personal experience, but it's a country experience. But let's remember that this story is not about you, about me, about the country. It is both ways, and staying blind to a reality is what keeps aid being a business and not a sustainable aid. In Mexico, there's another side of this coin. Sometimes it is seen as a charity. Aid is a charity. So there's the extreme. There shouldn't be money involved, no salaries, no nothing. And it is very difficult in Mexico to have an NGO. I have two, so I know what I'm talking about. It is very difficult because the reality is people think you should just give away your work. But we are leaving sustainability out of the equation. And that comes in your mindset, that comes in your strategies, that comes in your budget, that comes with everything. I think I would resonate with Asita on what you were saying. Everything is about the context, but not everything is about us going there. Context is an evolving piece of the puzzle. That's what I would say.
In a way, junior assistants are very lucky to have this experience. What are they supposed to bring back? What are they supposed to do other than do their work where they are? We have a topic treating on that.
dire qu'on s'en rendait peut-être déjà compte avant, c'est que le Pérou va souffrir énormément des effets du changement climatique, mais les paysans péruviens ne sont pas ceux qui ont généré ce changement climatique, ou vraiment très très peu. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'il est très important d'agir chez nous. Ça, c'est quelque chose dont je me suis rendu compte, que je savais peut-être avant déjà, mais qui est beaucoup plus flagrant quand on va et qu'on travaille avec les gens là-bas.
Alors enfin, pourquoi du coup est-ce que ce SDG numéro 5 qui porte sur l'égalité de genre, l'égalité homme-femme, est si important pour moi? Je dirais tout simplement parce que l'égalité homme-femme est pour moi fondamentale dans la construction de sociétés plus justes, et ce partout dans le monde, au Pérou, mais aussi en Belgique.
Since 2015, I'm working at the Institute for Housing and Urban Development Studies, which is part of Erasmus University in Rotterdam, in the Netherlands, where I'm teaching in the master program called Urban Management and Development, and I'm also involved in advisory and research projects.
As a junior assistant, you work abroad, you're being confronted with the complexities and the global issues. You're not only sensitized about the global impact and certain locations, but you can also become a great awareness raiser. But I'll ask you the question, because you've been there as a junior assistant. Do you think you should be obliged to communicate back to your home country and raise awareness?
Well, I think it's a responsibility you have if you work in development cooperation, if you have an opportunity such as the junior program, then it's a responsibility to raise awareness on a larger scale. But I think it's very difficult to do so.
Let me interrupt. Did you have to do this?
At the time I had to. There was a website of the junior program, a blog, and every junior assistant had to post at least 4 messages a year. But then it was closed down eventually, I think because not enough people read the blogs.
Yeah, and 4 blogs a year, that's not really what you can call hard work.
No, but yeah, no.
You can do it in.
But
you can do it in a week's time, but be honest.
You could make 4 really interesting posts.
Okay, then it takes like 2 weeks for 4 really interesting blogs. The effectiveness of it is obvious. What should be a better solution? Do you have ideas on this?
Well, that's a very good question, but I think it's a problem a lot of NGOs, agencies they're confronted with. You always reach the ones that are already convinced, and it's very difficult, even impossible, to reach the ones that are very skeptical, that are very critical. And actually, I don't really know how you could try to reach those this later group.
Okay, that's why we set you in a female condition here. I'm sure a lot of solutions will come. No, I'm making a joke, of course. But it's obvious that you would like to, but you don't really know how to get there. Of course, there are big campaigns, but do you think, I'm going to go through the table, do you think, Teresa, that one should really raise awareness when he gets the opportunity to be on the other side of the planet?
I think that's what comes in the package. It is a great responsibility to be out there, to have this opportunity. We cannot just cross our arms and sit down. There's always something we can do. And especially when it comes to connecting to the SDGs, as I was mentioning in my remarks before.
But if I may, not everybody is a movie maker, not everybody is a book writer. So what should they do?
Well, there's even this lazy person's guide to change the world that the UN released.
But that's a book for you.
Not really.
4 blogs a year.
And it is a very fun guide. It has 3 levels. How to contribute to a better world from your couch. If you cannot leave Netflix or any service that you use, there's a way to engage. For example, social media is one. Liking a post, sharing a post, sign up for a cause, whatever you want to do. There are ways that are very simple from our couch. The second level is from your home. I was mentioning before, what products are you buying? How are you recycling? How do you use your water? For example, if you were working in Uganda in access to water, the first thing you could do in your own life is saving water and giving it a proper use. Then the third level, outside of your home. If you manage to get out of your couch, then out of your house, there are plenty of things to do, starting by your commute. But then, if you become a successful marketer, as I mentioned before, or you are a UNICEF officer, or even nothing that has to do with that, you become a graffiti painter, artist. There's always something to connect and to relate to the experience you had before. As I said before, we cannot allow us to forget. After 2 years in a country, I bet you changed, and I hope that stays with you.
Okay, Linda, I wish I could tell you today that as from tomorrow, you have 20 colleagues with the same quality of yourself working on the same matters. You would be really happy, I guess, because you're very lonely in the job you do. Well, not being lonely as a person, but this is also influencing, of course, the awareness.
Yes, yes. Well, I mean, I do believe that...
Put your microphone.
Sorry,
yeah.
yes. I am strongly convinced that if you are in development aid, you work in development aid, that you have to bear witness to what you are seeing, to what you are experiencing. You have to make an analysis of the causes of poverty, of the causes of inequality, and you have to, because if you don't make that analysis and you don't communicate your analysis, then nothing will ever change. So you have to bear witness to what you see and to what you know. And also, I also want to warn you that you are facing a couple of years that are not going to be nice for this sector. You are slowly being eaten alive. We've had Donald Trump, who was elected to be the American president next year. Donald Trump hates everything outside America. America is the biggest donor on this planet. The United Nations depend for more than half of their income on Donald Trump. If he decides that this is enough, then that's the end of your sector. In 2017, in Europe, we're going to have elections in Germany, in France and in Holland. I don't know when the next Belgian elections are, but also there the European Trumps will be elected, and it's going to influence your sector a lot. You will be eaten alive if you don't get up and bear witness to how important you are or how important you think you are. The time to sit and like a Facebook post has passed. You have to get up and wake up, because it's going to be very bad. It's going to be really tough in the next years. And it's not only your organizations that are going to suffer, it's also the people there who are benefiting from your organizations that are going to suffer. So get up, raise awareness, raise hell, because it's going to be bad in the next years.
Bart is getting scared. How about this question, Linda? The difficulties of getting it out there, the difficulties of getting the message out to people who are not concerned and not really interested. The difficulties of not being a writer, of not being... Are they real difficulties?
I don't believe that that the audience, the public, is not interested in poverty, in problems, in development aid. I believe that there's a lot of people who are interested in that, if the story is good. You have to have a good story. Me, as a journalist, I try to avoid aid organizations because they're not giving me the correct story. They're telling me their story. They're trying to whitewash things that are going wrong in their project. if you have a correct story, if you have a true story, you can approach journalists and they'll be with you, because also journalists are human beings. Also journalists want the best for the world. So be honest in your communication. Communicate not only how politics there could be better, not only how politics here could be better, but also communicate about how aid could be better. What can the industry improve about itself? Be honest about that, be open about that, and I'm sure you will find people interested in your stories. You will find journalism interested in your stories, and you will find the audience interested in your stories.
Another difficulty that a junior might face is being honest abroad and risking not to be able to be honest, because the freedom of expression is not so obvious, or the experience in the country being is not so obvious. What would you suggest then?
Well, I know that in very many countries on this planet you have very hard-working local journalists who risk their lives to expose fraud, to expose corruption, to expose local politicians. Support them, help them in their work, supply them not only with the information but also help them financially. Help local journalists to do those investigations.
Yeah, if you cannot do it yourself, then...
Oh yes, definitely. I mean,
pass the message.
Yes, I mean, people there depend on their local reporters. They don't depend on you; they depend on their local reporters.
Yeah. What do you think, Bart? Because I've been picturing you a bit in the wrong way. It was my sense of humor. It was certainly not personal. But what do you think when you hear Teresa, when you hear Linda about how important raising awareness is? How can you reflect on what they say?
I agree that raising awareness is very important. My problem is that I don't see how you can reach the people that are not interested in development cooperation, or that are very critical. And maybe, yeah, like you said, if you have a good story, then you will reach more people. But still, it's also a very complicated sector. And it's difficult to explain it if you have to bring in enough nuance. It's not so easy. I think I still don't really see how you can reach like a broader public with easy stories that are.
You're being given quite some answers to the questions you're asking again, but.
Yeah, maybe I should.
You will follow some courses.
I should see examples.
Yes. Okay. How important is it, Asita, to pass the message, to talk about the work you do abroad, to talk about the program you're following?
I think it's very important, as I said before, also to convince public opinion that it's also important to give part of our budget to this kind of things. And why it's important, it's sharing the emotion, sharing the experience, sharing the impact, what we have noticed. Otherwise, it makes it maybe difficult to defend if people are not correctly informed about what is going on and why it's important and what is in it for them. And especially what should be done is like what is being done today. I think Monica and all the teams did a great job by setting this up and communicating live about it, and also on Twitter, on social media. I think the people following the junior program can just simply share their experience on social media. You can use Snapchat, you can use Instagram or whatever to share that experience, and it's even not hard work. I believe, even for me, I'm 36, to write a page on a blog is really hard work because it's boring. It's more easy to use the current social media and communicate with very short messages, because people won't read everything, except when you write an article in a newspaper, then it's going to have more, maybe it's going to to expose more people, different kind of people also to the idea. But when you write a blog, before it was very important to write a blog, but now we have a revolution of how you communicate, and people are very in hurry and getting a lot of information, and especially those who are not directly interested in the idea of international development will maybe be more open to a short message that you can write quickly to share an emotion that they can absorb more quickly. Now, speaking of America being the big, one of the big donators, as you said, and the fear of more Trumps in Europe, I'm kind of more optimistic. Not that I'm totally not happy with what happened, of course, in the US, but I think we still have hope in Europe. Although we have some negative signs, we still have, at least sometimes, you mentioned the date of the elections in the Netherlands, in France, in Germany. We have in Belgium also after 2 years from now. I think we still have time to influence and to change, to have better politics, better politicians. This is also I wrote a column in the Standard today saying how you can reboot the politics, because it's very, very boring. Boring, and en français, in French, there is a very interesting word called soporifique. Even I, as a politician, really fall asleep from politics, and unfortunately not without migraine all the time. So it's very important today to make everything contain some passion again, to bring that politics to people like the young the young fellows of the junior program, and people who are interested in something new. And this will take into account the need, in the pain in society, and that will help us avoid some more Trumps and have some more positive stories to share. So the idea is just stay who you are and share your happiness, how you contributed to the program, and how other people could contribute. It's just sharing that experience that could attract more people and make them. Also, a last idea I would like to suggest is speaking in the schools. Like when I hear Bart or Teresa here, I feel like it would be so interesting to have them have that conversation in a school or in a university with students who don't know what to do yet after graduating, and sharing the experience. It would inspire them, and it's a field where you will meet some people who did not have any idea about international cooperation yet. That's what I wanted to add.
Yes, I was thinking to add to this communication thing that you shouldn't underestimate yourself on your possibility of communicating, that you shouldn't just stop with the idea of, well, I don't know how to, or I don't know who I'm going to reach. Maybe without knowing who you're going to reach, it's still interesting to just communicate about the experience you have.
May I add one thing to that? It was in the summer of 2015 when suddenly you had this enormous influx of migrants crossing the Mediterranean, coming from Turkey into Greece and then walking through Europe. This was an amazing moment where lots of people in Europe united for those refugees, against all the political powers that wanted to stop the refugees. All along the route where those refugees were walking and sailing and bicycling and taking trucks, etc., hundreds of thousands of volunteers were there to help the refugees along. And even now, you know, the refugees reached their destinations. There are still tens of thousands of Europeans involved in their destiny, involved in helping those refugees. What I want to say is that there's an enormous potential positive influence amongst the people. It is, look at the globalization, the anti-globalization movement. Look at the Occupy movement, for example. If necessary, you can mobilize so many people. But you have to take your problem serious. If you say that you are still optimistic about the development aid, I congratulate you, but I'm not. In the past years, and this was before Trump, development aid was slashed, you know. Many organizations in Holland, I'm not sure what the situation in Belgium is, many organizations in Holland have to do with 30% of the money that they got before from the government. And this is a change in only a couple of years. I'm very worried about our foreign policy from now on, including development policy. And I truly believe that you have to be alert, because otherwise you will be marginalized, or you will just be used to stop migration, for example, which is what is happening in Europe at the moment. a large slice of European development aid money is going into stopping migrants. This is why they are spending it in certain places in Africa at the moment, to stop migrants, not to develop countries, not to help people, no, to stop migrants. This is happening now. You know, you have to be really alert, because otherwise you will disappear or you will be abused for these political agendas. So this is what I would recommend everybody here. Rise up.
That, of course. When I say that I'm optimistic, it means that I'm someone who like to work hard and to contribute to those who are doing things. I like to see the positive side of the story. You can, my grandmother used to tell us about, you know, the ants, the little ants, les petites fourmis. Really, they can do so much because they do it together. They can carry things that are so much bigger than all of them together. I believe in the little hands doing things. Of course, what you are saying, there is indeed, there are reasons to be worried. I am not stupid. I really worry about that. But at the same time, I believe in the efficiency of those who, in that difficult period, still want to do something. And what we should do is, if we are not optimistic, we just stop now and then go home and be depressed. Or we think of a plan. How can we change things? And I'm always on the active side of the process to see how things can be changed. Indeed, it's when you spoke also of something very positive that we are observing is the solidarity of people supporting. But this is so far what we call in Dutch symptoombestrijding. It's you know, dealing with the consequence of something that is much deeper. So internationally, it's very important to cope with that, to deal with that problem, to help migrants, to help people who are in need. But at the same time, we have to focus on how to make the world a place where these kind of needs ultimately don't exist anymore. So the success would be the end of the need of people needing, the end of the fact that people need aid or need this kind of support. So we have to do two things at the same time. And when I think of the positive side on how many people can do things, inspire people, change things, write books or have interesting speeches or publish columns or do what we're doing today. When we went to Burkina Faso and to Guinea with Mr. Carl Michiels here, we saw, I would never forget the factory in Burkina Faso where these women were working, changing their lives. All these little things are really happening. And when we become pessimistic, then we'll just slow down and other Trumps are really going to win. But I believe we can beat them because we have a better story and we have a more positive story.
We're in...
Bring it on.
Yes, bring it on. We're in very good company. Teresa, yes, very briefly, because I would like to give the opportunity to the public to ask a few questions.
Great. I won't steal your time, I promise. No, I'm also on the positive side, in the positive, but
don't put Linda in the negative side, because she's being a journalist.
No, I actually agree with everything that she's saying, but what I mean is we need to be positive, but conscious and realistic. Not all of us are megaphones. I understand where you're coming from, Bart. Not all of us are megaphones, but we do have 5 friends. My first volunteers in my organizations, because I stood strong about my cause, even if they called me crazy, the first volunteers were my friends. It was my brother. Like, we need to start local. We need to start small. Even if you don't have a blog, you don't like social media, I think we can really create change. And that's how it starts. Entrepreneurs always tell you their first round of investment is family and friends. And that's where we start. And that we are people. We are people under this political, in the middle of these political disputes. And power comes from the people, and change comes from the people.
You guys know back now, so getting involved in your projects.
Exactly.
Okay. Allow me to ask right now, before we ask questions, to give them a big round of applause, because we're in very good company. thank you for your time. Thank you for the energy you invest in this debate. If there is in the public a few more people who want to ask questions, then please do so. And start with telling us your name and what you do.
Hello, hi. Hi, my name is Marie-Charlotte Tatepo. I was born in Nigeria. I'm from Cameroon descent and I'm Belgium now. I've been living in Europe for 30 years. I'm actually in communications and here I'm representing today ACPYPN, which is the African, Caribbean, Pacific Ocean Young Professional Network. And basically I've been listening for the past 2 hours and it's been very difficult for me to hear everything I've heard. Most of it is just heart-wrenching. And I don't really understand what we're really talking about. I think this was going to be about the results. Should we go ahead with the program? I haven't heard anything in regards to the results, how it's affecting people that you're supposed to be helping. I haven't heard anything to do with the impact. I've heard the benefits that people who go out there get from getting involved, but I haven't seen anything about what you actually do on the field. I would like to get more results, and I think this discourse is more political than actually beneficial to the people you're supposed to be supporting. And when we're talking about entrepreneurships, I'm actually an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship is all about, like you said, getting help from your family and your surroundings. And I think what you should be doing, I'm not trying to give lessons here, but really is working with the locals. I'm not sure if the NGOs you're involved in are actually involving people locally, like local workers within NGOs, because I see a lot of people coming from the north to the south. And I think more people from the local area should be getting involved in those programs and also supporting them to be independent rather than helping. And AIDS is not the solution from my own point of view, and I would work more towards entrepreneurship and supporting them to be independent and being able to work by themselves. Thank you.
Thank you for your reaction. You've done a very good compilation of the last few hours from your own point of view. The people sitting here in the debate are not the people who are supposed to answer these questions, I guess, because you're directly asking for results of the past. I don't know if anybody feels like he or she should take a stand and give a few answers if possible.
Well, my name is Monica Quintens. I'm the coordinator of the junior program. I think your remark is very pertinent because our program, well, one of the things in the debate is that we have been also focusing today on what is the relevance of sending young people abroad. Some answers have been given on that, but one of the issues that I haven't heard enough as you is what is the contribution that is there for projects where they work for. We just had a midterm review because we found this as important as the experience is for young people to go abroad. It's a professional program, so the second objective of the program is really that they contribute in a professional way, as Bart has also said. It's also difficult for Bart to see or to explain from his point of view what they have contributed. But the midterm review showed clearly that all partners involved, all the projects involved that had the opportunity of having a junior assistant contributing for a contract duration of 2 years are very positive and very appreciate their contribution on a professional level. They see lots of innovative approaches that have been brought forward by junior assistants that are implicated in the projects. They also see a lot of good changes where they didn't expect them to see. For example, we have more women junior assistants going abroad, and we also see a very positive influence. Partner institutions with which we work, they also see a very positive influence coming from that. So what the study has shown is also that not only our junior assistants are satisfied with going abroad, but also the project, they really see great benefits of it. But there's some people here in the room, also NGOs, that have been working with junior assistants, so maybe they can also say something about that. I don't know if any of the NGOs present here would like to answer more regarding to the question, but what is the benefit of them going abroad for the projects in which they work. No?
Thank you very much, Monica. Don't go far. There might be other questions.
I am Els Eekhout.
Can you stand up, please?
Yes. Vredeseilanden. We have had a number of people going abroad for us, and they were mainly working in communication projects. In fact, they all worked for our country offices, our regional offices, and we had a very good experience with them giving input in to our head office. So for us it was like a way to improve our work in our regions, because they had in a certain way also the possibility to translate things that came out of our offices and our projects. So for us it was a very good experience because we had the opportunity to link more the south with the north.
Okay. Other reflections, other questions?
To add a comment on that remark.
Okay,
please.
Asita.
Actually, I think that we covered quite, it was very, if you followed from the beginning, Teresa here said a lot of things about entrepreneurship and how it's important. We spoke about empowering women, empowering youth. We spoke about the impact with the local people. When we went to Guinea and Burkina Faso, we saw some people there, and I can assure you that there is a very interesting way of cooperating, and also the institutions here, like working with the development agency, are also having a clear and visible, not only on paper, but really visible impact on field. And the last point, will the program continue or not? Of course, we cannot decide it here, but as I said also during the discussion, of course, we support the program and we're going to support it. The goal is that it would remain and even be improved. Why not? So I was a bit surprised of all the missing points. I'm always very frank. I think that it was quite a lot that had been said here today, and we spoke about raising awareness. So many interesting people in the room today, and I think all of you got some information. I learned also from Bart, from Teresa, I'm sorry, I forgot your name, from Linda as well, and I'm feeling that I'm much better informed right now than a couple of hours ago. I think we could take that as a food for thought and something we could use, each of us in our own network, to support this idea. That's what I wanted to add as an optimistic.
Of course. Thank you. No, it's not optimistic. It's well observed as well. Of course, we cannot develop everything. We cannot follow your demands or commands in 2 hours. Take some more time, be patient also, because we just wanted to add extra points of view to what is happening in the basic. Teresa, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I was thinking, I don't know if you already do this because I'm not familiar with every aspect of the program, but I'm thinking that it would be interesting for the junior assistants that finish their program and come here to connect with diaspora that is living here from the countries where you've been. And also enabling from this side to the diaspora. You mentioned again entrepreneurship, and it is studied that remittances that are sent by the diaspora to their countries, especially in the cases of Latin America and Africa, go to local entrepreneurship. I'm speaking about mostly traditional entrepreneurship. They send money from this country. Let's say I'm Mexican living in Belgium, and I will send money for my brother to go to university in Mexico, or for my brother to start a small shop in our neighborhood. That remittances are fostering entrepreneurship. So I think something that could be valuable, besides the exchange of bringing people from both sides of the story to this program, to enable diaspora here, that I think that could complete the cycle. Not sure if that happens already. But.
Good ideas from the panel, good ideas from the public also. Another question, Monica, can I ask you to hand over the microphone?
Thank you and happy birthday. Just one food for thought.
Present yourself.
Sorry, Hugo Soraya. I was born and raised in Kinshasa, DRC, and from the private sector. Linda, been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. And my question is, what are your thoughts moving from aid to trade and entrepreneurship? I think if we consider today's world, it is what is to be done. And it's not the US who is the first aid contributor to the world. It's the European Union.
Nope. Okay, how to move from aid to trade? You get exactly 1 minute.
I think that we should have moved long time ago from aid to trade. But if you want to sell, you must sell to someone who can buy. So we need to, being active in the business world as well, I know that it's very important to lobby for better financial information. For example, go to the zone UMO, I don't know, in West Africa, if you need the balance sheet of your client to go to the De Croo or to go fast or to the Lloyds, please just, I hope God will help you. It's not that easy, and these guys have cash, but mostly they don't have proper information, or, but you see that there is a lot with the OADA, for example, there is a lot of regulation going on that is being encouraged to make trade easy, but there is still a lot to be done to, you know, we have to be able to have all the balance sheet, all the financial information at a certain point of the year, also in a database, like we could have it here at the National Bank. There are all kinds of things that we could do, and this would make trade much easier. And the companies who have been signing the sustainable, the charter of the SDGs are also planning to do business in another way, you know, not changing what they're doing, they're business people, you know, they're not charity or whatever, but in the way in which they do business, they could include this and see the impact of, when I see a SME in Cote d'Ivoire or Senegal that is able to buy what they need, to find the right supplier with the right information and run their business, create jobs, and pay taxes, I'm so happy. So I'm so happy with your question. This is really like giving me milk to drink. I'm very, very happy with this question.
Actually, I feel the question is a little bit out of the scope of the debate, but it's a very interesting question anyway. Trade is definitely an instrument towards economic growth and towards progress, but it cannot replace aid as a whole, in my opinion, because you will always have vulnerable populations that you cannot reach with trade because they're just like too vulnerable, too poor. So you will also need aid grants in order to support these people. You need both. I think you need both. Yeah.
But in the process, to go to the trade.
Linda.
I'll skip this one.
Yeah, Teresa. Okay. One more question?
To avoid any confusion, I will need 10 seconds to say I don't mean that we need to stop aid now and do only trade. But in the way in which we do aid, we should develop the private sector, and that is also the plan of the minister, and I'm really supporting that idea because you become happier to have a job and buy your own food than to receive it for free. I would be a very proud human being by doing that. So, but those who are in need, women who need to give birth and whatever, it's very important to be able to give that assistance as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Flor Marico, interning at the FAO in Brussels, and I used to work as an intern at this junior program. You mentioned, Bart, the difficulty of finding a job on the field after your junior program experience, so I would like to hear more about that.
Well, the fact is, NGOs on the field or aid agencies, if they want to hire someone from the north, a technical assistant, then they seek someone with at least 10 years experience.
How did you find out about that? Did you? Yeah, I want to make sure if it's true what you're saying.
After my period as a junior program, I searched for a job, and I also went through job vacancies for international positions, and
that's what they told you.
Yeah, and it's not only my personal experience; it's an experience a lot of junior assistants have had.
Okay.
So yeah, if you look at job vacancies, you will always find like requirements for like a long professional experience.
Oké. Nog 2, dan gaan we moeten afsluiten.
Perhaps I can add something. I'm a HR manager for Vredeseilanden, and it's true that when we look for people that we will send out from Belgium to the south, we always look for people with not even 10 years, 20 years of experience. And for the rest, we employ local people.
Okay. The sir at the back can close. Make sure you say something intelligent because you're the last one.
What a pressure. Hello, I'm Benjamin De Neff. I'm an engineering architect, and it's a little bit strange that I'm here, but I just came from ADEX, that's parallel busy at... it's very funny to hear the story there and the story here, because you're actually there with an innovation of our Maggie shelter. And the thing is, actually to give an answer to the lady over there, concerning the local small initiatives, our concept is actually to search for local NGOs, to work with them together, and to really not working with the big companies, only the big organizations like the UN, for example, because for us as entrepreneurs here in Belgium, it's too difficult to cooperate with such a big organization. You really have to go through all the bureaucratic things. So we really are setting up our own projects in close to the border of Syria and in East Congo. And we're working together with Safe Congo, for example, for war victims, for women who are actually raped in war. So for us, we really have the idea of just do something. So even if you are a millimeter higher than somebody else here, you can already make a small difference. So we really truly believe in small initiatives, also being paid by Western companies, entrepreneurs, because we feel a very, very big will of companies here to really raise money and to invest in smaller projects. And actually also our idea of our Maggie shelter is to export something very small, a double jacket, and local economy, local labor, and local people can fill it up with capacity that stays over 12, 15 years and even can evolve to schools and so on. So, but the thing is, what I just wanted to say is something positive. I think maybe the fact that big organizations are going to lose money maybe shakes the tree that hard that maybe other, it's not a business model, but other approaches, how you can work together, can exist. It's typically in a crisis period that new innovative things can happen and new cooperations can happen. And I think we, the small, even though we are very, very small, we are going to build 10 schools in Turkey and in East Congo. Even though it's a very, very small initiative, we feel already that we have a lot of followers and people who really want to help into it. So I think that's also a very positive thing. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, in the Innovation Challenge, we were with the 4 finalists and we became second because they thought our idea was already too avant-gardistic. It was already too looking for real sustainability and not always buying the same products over and over each year again to sustain budgets of big organizations. But actually really looking for people locally getting a solution that they can go further with and stabilize their economy with. That's actually an idea that's really changing. We feel it on ADEX, that people are thinking more long-term, more local, more... That's actually also the subject of the conference now, to really act local and to set into local innovation. So
this might also be part of an answer to your question, sir, about how aid has to change to trade, or how trade has to change to aid.
Yes.
Because I didn't hear that answer, but it's an extra answer, of course. The engagement of trade and business into a global, sustainable global goals.
Yeah, and I think you underestimate how many companies here in Western countries really want to do something. Once I was talking to somebody who had really a big budget and he didn't get the budget in a camp because it was too difficult to find a receiver and to go through all the bureaucracy. They really wanted to give them like 200 refurbished computers, really to give people modern education in a camp. But it was so difficult to work together with the big organizations because it had to go through an whole process of bureaucracy, that finally they said, okay, we're just going to work together with a small NGO locally. We're just going to pass through all that and finally make it happen, because that's actually the goal. And then you also see where your money goes through. It's much more transparent, and you really can say here to your funders, you gave me €1, we're going to do that with it. So.
Okay, thank you for your contribution to the debate.
Okay, sorry to interfere.
All those initiatives are going to keep the story in balance. Let's listen to a closing word from Christa Verstralen, who is HR manager here at BTC.
Thank you very much for that. First of all, I've been given a speech which was not written for me, but it's actually our president of our board of directors who was supposed to give this speech. Now, she had to excuse herself, and I'm stuck with her speech. I will skip some parts, and I will probably add some other accents. First of all, I'm going to do this the Belgian way, meaning I will use 3 languages. Tout d'abord, permettez-moi, comme directrice ressources humaines, qui a eu le plaisir et le privilège, je dois dire, d'aider à faire naître notre programme junior et aussi de suivre de très près.
Junior program and to follow it up very closely. So I would like to congratulate them. After 10 years, I think we can be very proud and happy with what we've achieved. And I would also like to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank the whole team, all these people that have designed the program. You've heard Monica, who is the coordinator for the junior program. She's here with her team, and there are many other people within CTB, within BTC and elsewhere in the NGO that have supported us a great deal. I think this is of paramount importance. And the discussions, the debates that we have just had clearly demonstrate that this is not just a small program, that it is a large-scale program.
Also a program which opens up eyes, which gives young people the opportunity to have different experiences, to ask very critical questions about what we do, what BTC does, bilateral development does, what other actors, NGOs do, or other actors where they are active. And those critical questions can only raise awareness, can only raise the support to see what we can do, how we can do it, and how can we do things differently. And so that is one of the reasons why we can be so proud on all the results we've booked in the last 10 years. And the juniors themselves, well, let's say we're very, very proud of you all. Now, I also would like to thank all the people who talked in the debate. There were very interesting speakers.
I want to thank you all for your contribution and for the different points of view, angles and experiences that were explained to us today. And in this sense, we would like to offer a small present. Ce seront des cadeaux, bien sûr, qui sont issus du commerce équitable. On n'ose pas faire différemment ici. Et pour commencer, il y a bien sûr
so to start with chocolate. Chocolate, which is quite a traditional present in Belgium.
Get yourself ready for cold winter days as well in Europe as in the States. Please also accept these socks. They are made of bamboo. Ce sont des chaussettes de bamboe. En dat is nogmaals eens een illustratie. De tijd van de geitenwolle sokken is lang
that we don't need white lane socks anymore. I mean, now we've got bamboo socks. So thank you, Annabel van Nieuwenhuizen, Teresa, Asita Kango and Bart Tierens for your contribution to the debate. It was all built up around the junior program, but I'm very happy that we went way beyond all of that. We've talked about much more than only the junior program. Now let's go back to the junior program. In the last 10 years, we sent out hundreds of young professionals with the first experience in our partner countries of the development cooperation, and that we have many partner organizations who are here today as well, and so together we all share the same goals, and so that's why we are convinced that this junior program doesn't only help out to develop a new generation of development experts, as we call them today, but also we help developing ambassadors of solidarity and international cooperation.
Indeed, all the studies that we've done so far show that there has been a clear follow-up of the program, so that is a clear advantage when starting something from scratch. So we take into account the feedback, we know what has been the future, the consequences, the results of the activities, and there is a whole network being developed around the former juniors.
It's more a
all boys network.
Young girls network. Ceci est tout à fait pertinent et en phase aussi avec le nouveau paradigme des objectifs
and this is in line with the new paradigm of sustainable development goals. This is also in line with what's happening in Belgium. We have the Belgian Charter of the SDGs for International Development signed under the initiative of Minister De Croo last October. It's been signed by 80 Belgian companies, by civil society organizations, and also as well by the public sector.
So the junior program continues to play its role as a partner of the SDGs and to have a career in international cooperation for young professionals. Now in 2017 we should close a new framework agreement for the new program, and we are aware of the fact that in Belgium, and not only in Belgium, but because of the current budget context, it will be very difficult. So we can't dream about more money and more means if today we've heard the bad news because Europe did not accept the Belgian budget. The European Commission said no, so tough times are coming. But I do believe that it is useful to ask our politicians to, when they divide the cake, and the cake is becoming smaller and smaller, but yet when they divide the cake, we would like them to take into account that this is a useful program. We work between the different actors within development cooperation, and we don't only work in a bilateral level, we work beyond borders, and we work straight or directly together with the people in the countries, in the projects, in the NGOs.
So I hope that I have clearly understood. One of the administrators who said, I will fight for it.
And if she didn't put it on Twitter yet, I will. So I think this is very important. So I do hope that we can follow up this program, maybe with different accents, maybe working differently, with less means, but we want to take along all lessons learned so that we can continue the junior program.
So this is an anniversary. So with the speakers, I would like to invite you for the treat, because this is our 10th year anniversary and we want to celebrate. Thank you very much.